This is Special Focus right on Equity Access, your daily insight on stock market developments and on developments in the Zimbabwean economy. A beautiful evening it is to you. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Let's roll. On agenda tonight, the Ministry of Energy and Power Development today held a press conference in the capital. Speaking at the press conference, Honorable Minister Joram Gumbo said that the prevailing fuel crisis in Zimbabwe is the result of a lack of foreign currency. Elsewhere, the Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board today released a weekly report for the week to 8 February 2019. According to the report, Zimbabwe's tobacco earnings so far in 2019 have upped 122% to $140 million from $63.5 million recorded in the comparable period in 2018. Also, the Minister of Information and Publicity today in a tweet said that the speculation about a new currency is very much baseless. For conversation on these and other issues, I'm joined in studio by our very own analyst at Equity Access, Anesu Chimbomu. Anesu, good evening and welcome to the platform.
Always my pleasure, Eben. Thanks.
Beautiful. Let's cut to the chase. On to the fuel crisis. Press statement there by the Minister of Energy and Power Development. Can you take us through the details? What exactly was the purpose of this press conference in that regard?
Well, Eben, the main purpose for this press conference was much to do with him having actually said earlier on that there is a lot of fuel within the country, yet us as the citizenry and journalists and the like have not seen much of that issue really being solved, because we do see fuel queues coming up. We don't get fuel as much as we could or as easily as we could in the earlier days. So with him having said that, people needed some clarity around that statement as to what he really meant with us having a lot of fuel within the country.
And how did you bring clarity to the case?
Well, clarity to the case was then brought by actually him saying a statement that I think he shouldn't have really brought out, because this then really brings in a lot of pandemic in terms of how people are going to react towards him actually saying there's no fuel. Why am I saying that he said there's no fuel? What he basically said at the press conference was that Zimbabwe is mainly a storage hub where you find that other countries and other individuals could actually come and buy the fuel from Zimbabwe, and then it was piped up or down to whichever country has actually bought that fuel. And those countries that have the forex can buy that. But then now, because Zimbabwe doesn't have foreign currency for it to actually buy that fuel, we are not able to actually disseminate or buy it ourselves to the respective service stations that actually do offer the fueling services. So no forex, no fuel, but then we are a storage country.
Okay. We have current demand of 7.6 million liters per day, vis-a-vis a figure of 2.9 million liters recorded in May of 2018. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, based on what the minister said earlier, that Zimbabwe is currently demanding $32 million in forex for fuel, that is, and yet RBZ is only able to pay just $20 million. Can you explain the dynamics of that, and perhaps if there could be a way out, and what do you foresee going forward in terms of that?
All right, even much to do with the 2 million coming up to about 7.6 a week, and the 32 million versus the 20 million. This has much to do with two answers I'm going to give you right here.
Okay.
One, which is pricing, and the other, a small boom in our economy. Well, just to give you a little bit of clarity in terms of small boom in the economy before you even get to a place where you're like, what do you mean the small boom? Okay. Well, the boom is much to do with, I could talk about statistics coming from the CZI, where they mentioned that our capacity utilization was actually up to about 41%, and then also we can talk about how gold had actually gone up. So you see that production in terms of industrial production, mining production had gone up. Also, tobacco export production actually had also gone up. So you'd find that more work, that meant more fuel that was needed to be used. And then pricing coming into the factor. The pricing, yes, for me and you, it was a little bit expensive because I'm not getting a growing salary. But versus the regional prices, our fuel was very much cheaper than you would find in Zambia or Mozambique or South Africa, Botswana, you name it. So on a regional perspective, we were very cheap, and you would find that individuals from outside the Zimbabwe would come and buy the fuel this side and then go sell at a premium in their own countries.
Okay. Can you talk about the monopoly issues? I'm sure in the print media there have been issues to do with the distribution of the fuel as well as the forex in that regard. Please shed more light.
Okay, much to do with the monopoly. He actually specifically named the one fuel service station that has been purported to be a monopoly, which is Sakunda. Okay. Sakunda is what he then answered, saying that these guys are heavily involved in command agriculture. So with them being heavily involved in command agriculture, that meant that they needed more fuel that needs to be used, which also explains that economic boom that we realized because of such initiatives by the government.
Okay, let's move on to our next story. Tobacco. The Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board releasing a weekly report for the week to 8 February 2019. So these are stats from January right up to this point. And yes, according to the report, there has been an upward surge of 122% to $140 million from 63.5 recorded in the same period in 2018. What do these figures mean?
So basically, this is just coming from where we had a very good tobacco season, which was up 30% on the last, 33% on its prior year in terms of volume, both inclusive of value as well. So you would find that with that upsurge in the volumes that have been that were actually produced in the country, there is no doubt that we should expect such an increase, even though the price was a little bit more punitive in terms of its pricing versus the previous year. This also has a good the effect was actually not as much as the growth in terms of the volumes that were produced. So people may think that people are still selling tobacco from the farms, but then this is much to do with our exports now. The produce that was made during the 2017-2018 season is now, which is resulting in the 122% increase in the tobacco earnings. Yes.
Okay. The country is currently dogged by forex issues.
Yes.
And this is Zimbabwe's second largest forex earner,
yes,
raking in about $892 million in 2018. We having started on this upward trend in January, does this spell positives for the country getting into the rest of 2019?
It should, but then by the time we start the trading season for tobacco for the 2018-2019 season, it may get a little bit more gloomy, as we are already expecting another hard-hitting weather unexpectation. The El Nino? Yes, the El Nino, to be more specific.
Okay. Hold on a second, Aniso. Remember that I had a conversation with the CEO of TSL, and they said, look, we haven't seen the effects of this El Nino in as far as the crop is concerned.
Well, like I had said, that the 122 isn't much to do with what's in the ground right now. This is from produce that came from the previous year, and that produce is still being sold on the international market. But the El Nino now would then affect what produce we're going to have in this following trading season for the tobacco crop.
Okay, and what would that mean?
I mean, that could mean poor quality leaves. That could mean less produced. I mean, it depends also on how they're going to mitigate the issue of the El Nino. Are they going to bring in more irrigation? Are they going to I mean, there are a lot of other issues that they could actually, there are other solutions that they could actually come up with.
Fair enough.
For that, for the
Making progress. Mm-hmm. There's been much speculation around the much anticipated monetary policy statement by the RBZ.
Yes.
And we've seen in the print media reports of a possible new currency that we could be having in the near future. Now, in a tweet, the Minister of Information said that government has noted with concern falsehoods coming from some political quarters claiming that Zimbabwe will issue a new currency next week. This needs to be dismissed with the contempt it deserves. This has no base in fact or reality. It's unfounded fake news.
But speculation is not a crime, because yes, the government hasn't really mentioned it outright forth, but then the incumbent finance minister came in wailing about how the bond is not really much of a good currency, or rather currency in quotes, and how he's expecting to bring in a new currency within Zimbabwe, or actually coming up with the Zim dollar. I mean, so we're now just speculating as different individuals, partisan or non-partisan. We have the right to speculate in terms of whether a new currency is supposed to come in or not. We are still worried as to why the monetary policy isn't come out yet. We are still worried as to why we have no currency resolutions. So one of the currency resolutions are a currency shift, because the bond note hasn't done much. The US dollar is not very sustainable in the long run. Even if we do re-dollarize, who is going to export their
hold on
US
a
dollar
second
into
there,
Zimbabwe?
Anisu.
Yes.
This puts to bed the speculation that we're headed for a new currency, does it not?
Well, I will still speculate, because I need to find a plan. I need to find a way forward.
This is a hint that there is no new currency that's coming.
Yes, it's a hint, and it's a very, very worrying hint, my friend. Because if they are saying that there's going to be no currency resolutions, then we are doomed. Because without a currency resolution, how are we going to attract our foreign currency? By exporting cheaper stuff? How are we going to...
Maybe we're headed for a relaxation of the 1:1, maybe going to peg it a 1:3.5, something like that. Then speculation again.
Yeah, it's speculation. So I'd rather not speculate anymore, because the Ministry of Information will shut me out.
Fair enough. Now let's get into the stock markets. Yes. How did the stock markets perform today?
Well, the stock market did come off today again. It was pretty much of a gloomy day. It did. The all-share index and the industrials index came off about 0.34% on a day-on-day basis. If we just take a look at it very closely, we do see that they both settled at 154.61 and 515.87 points today, which is the 0.3 and 0.31 percentage drop that I had mentioned earlier on. The mining's index is still very much stable. I wouldn't expect much activity in that regard, because the bandwidth of its influence has actually reduced since Falgood was suspended from trading on the stock exchange as of late. Top 10 index, it did see a couple of reds. I mean, actually, out of all the top 10 stocks, 5 were in the red, and none, and the remaining were pretty much stable. Okay. So that was pretty much going to go down south. I think this has much to do with the stock market, as it was overheating. Now it had to come back to to some sort of normal, okay, or cool off. We do look at Padenga. Padenga was a hard hitting top 10 index that did drop. Coming off 4.98% for it to 105.47 cents. It was actually coming from an all-time high of 111 cents ever since it was listed on the stock market in 2010. It still is leading the top 10 index by coming up 24.08% on a year-to-date basis. Much to do with what I had mentioned earlier on in our previous show, that they are much more concentrated in terms of exporting their crocodile and alligator skins to the European and American markets. And then if we just look at our rises and fallers for the day, Turnal was the best performing counter of the day, coming up 9.13%. Mash Holdings are one of three counters that are much to do with properties, was among the rises and fallers, coming off 5.26%. The other two were on the other end of the stick, coming off 14.67% and 1.07%, which are to mention FMP and Dawn Properties, which settled at 6.4 cents and 2.77 cents in that respective order.
Oh, thank you, Anisu. Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and to visit our website, www.equityaccess.net. From Anisu and I, thank you and good evening.